Joining me now, Democratic Congressman Steve Cohen of Tennessee is a member of the Judiciary Committee and a frequent guest on the broadcast. So welcome back, Congressman. It's good to see you. We're going to start, sir, with your reaction to the president's tweet this morning as to who's to blame for this meddling. What do you think?
There's no question it's directly Vladimir Putin. He runs the GRU. That's his military espionage intelligence unit. Trump should demand that the 12 indicted Russians be turned over for judicial action and to have justice served. And if he doesn't do that, he ought to leave the summit. But we know what the summit's about. The summit's about he and Putin getting their business together in private. And their business is not the business of the people. It's the business of Donald Trump financially, Donald Trump's family financially, and Donald Trump's efforts along with, and his campaign, no question about it, with the Russian government in collusion to change the results of the election in 2016 by influencing people's minds. And that's what the Russian GRU did, and they did it for Trump. And Putin and Trump are such strong allies. That is not our opposition, our competitor. That's our foe. I've been with Russians just last week in Berlin. They lie constantly. They deny they shot down HM-17 over Iraq and killed 297 people and claim it's fake news and social media. It sounded like Trump talking. And I've been throughout ambassadorial circles with people who understand that the Russians and their intelligence are a danger, military and cyber-wise, to the Baltic regions, the Balkan regions, and other countries in Eastern Europe. Putin is avarice, and he wants to have more and more power and restore the Soviet Union, and we should be standing with our European allies in opposition.
You made
Trump is a master of distraction.
Well, you did make
He's a master of distraction.
Of whom are you speaking? Putin?
No, Trump. Well, Putin too. Putin's got a PhD. Trump's just trying to learn.
Look, you've made some suggestions about the content of the conversation, and while we can't verify them, I don't know that we ever will verify what privately goes on between them, because it is presumed that there will be just the two men themselves and interpreters in the first part of that meeting. So we will see what comes of that, if there's any kind of readout there. But with regard to the indictment, does that answer any of the questions that you've had? Were blanks filled in for you?
Well, it shows how good Robert Mueller and his staff are, to be able to go back and be able to determine from the facts they had, the cyber team is just superb, and to pick not only the individuals and what they did and when they did it is just amazing. That's why it's taken this long, and they've dotted every I and crossed and they've got those people. And some people, it's been amazing to me to read on Twitter and Facebook, people are Trump supporters who go, well, you know, they're innocent till proven guilty. All of a sudden, the Trump people are on the Russian side. They're innocent till proven guilty. But when you have an indictment brought by the special counsel, Robert Mueller, a hero in our nation, and a grand jury of American citizens who find probable cause that this happened, and these people jump immediately to the other side and say they have a presumption of innocence. Presumption of innocence is towards guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. But probable cause is what the grand jury decides. Robert Mueller's team has gotten the first step, and that's showing the GRU infiltrating and stealing, just like Watergate, except they did it internationally. It was a foreign force, and it was done cyber-wise, not just a off-the-street burglary of the Watergate. They stole Podesta's and Clinton's and the DNC and the DCCC's information, and they used it to hurt and influence the election. Now, I saw where one of my Republican colleagues said, well, obviously the Russians didn't want Hillary to win. That's how much they dislike Hillary. In essence, they're blaming Hillary for what the Russians did. No, it's not the answer.
There's been a lot.
It's amazing, Alex, what's happened.
No, go ahead. Finish up.
Sorry. I'm just saying it's amazing how things have been turned in this country. We are at a crucial time in our nation's history. We have been invaded by our enemy, when they are our enemy, Russia, and they have influenced and I think determined who our president is. And they've done it, and financially, they've done it too. But this country is definitely at risk, and what's going to go on in Helsinki is such a danger that nobody's going to be there to observe it.
Well, there will be some there to observe it later on in the meeting, certainly, and cabinet members and the like. But that said, there's been a lot of talk about Roger Stone, and I want to play for you what he said during an interview last night. He was saying that he is probably one of the unnamed Americans that were mentioned in the indictment. Take a listen to this.
I think it is still unproven. There's an enormous amount of forensic evidence that points to a conclusion based on the download times that there was no hack and that the material, the alleged hacked material, was downloaded to some kind of a portable drive. I don't know. That's why I'd like to see a trial.
A lot of questioning that there was no hack. I mean, what's your reaction to that?
That's the same thing as saying it was a 400-pound man on a bed. This abstraction, which all comes from what Trump learned, years ago from Roy Cohn, who was a lawyer in New York, a despicable, despised man who was Trump's alter ego and buddy, and taught him a lot about how lie, and never admit anything and never change your position. And he's learned it well, and it's just the art of obfuscation and abstraction, and he's done it well, and so has Stone. The indictments on the Americans who knew and who were involved are going to come soon enough, and they're going to expose people to what the truth is of what has been the most massive con job ever perpetrated on this earth.
Can I ask about President Trump's critics, many of whom are Democrats, and they say that he should not be meeting with Putin. So this meeting appears like it's going to go forward. There's every indication it will. Is there any acceptable outcome from this meeting for you?
Well, there would be an acceptable outcome if Putin said, yes, I will turn over those 12 men who've been indicted. That would be acceptable, and it'd be acceptable if they agreed to take and change change the Syria. They need to find a way to get Bashar out of power. That's a dangerous situation, and the Russians need to get out of Crimea, and they need to stop the assaults in Donbass on the Ukrainian government, and they need to renounce all forms of aggression against the Baltic states where they've infringed on their airspace and constantly taunt them, and they do the same thing with Estonia. But the Russians aren't going to do any of that. They're going to want sanctions relieved. They're probably going to get them. They're probably going to be given Syria, which will be a great mistake for many years to come, and they're not going to get out of Crimea or the Donbass, and they're not going to agree by the Minsk agreements. The problem is we've got two men who are notorious liars, both Putin and Trump. Trump can't tell the truth, and Putin's smart enough not to tell the truth.
Can I ask you, sir, you're a strong proponent of the prospect of impeaching this president. Was there anything from this indictment that leads you further in that direction?
Well, there's no question that when he said on July, I guess it was 27th, Russia, if you're listening, please find the 30,000 emails. And right after that, the Russians start to probe to get those emails.
That night, yeah.
Mueller probably has it. Robert Mueller is a star, and he and his team is one of the best teams going. It's like Elliot Ness going after Al Capone, and they've got it. And you can look by Trump's conduct. He does not, as Trey Gowdy said, act like an innocent man. He does not. They're trying to attack this investigation because they know what they've got. They know what the information will be because they know what they did. You know, I saw a post by Scalise yesterday, and he basically admitted it and said, yes, we're trying to show that Strzok and the investigation from the beginning was biased, and because of that, it should be thrown out. And that's what Giuliani's been saying. It was biased from the start, and it should be thrown out. It's a witch hunt. That's just not true. What they can't attack the facts, they're attacking the messengers, and they're trying to destroy this investigation for the benefit of Trump, the benefit of the fact that they colluded with Russia. That to me is treasonous.
Can you categorize the meeting that your committee held with Lisa Page yesterday? She has been characterized as having been more cooperative and credible. You mentioned Strzok, so more so than he was. What are your takeaways from the meeting?
I wish I could tell you. I wasn't there. I had to come back to Memphis, and I wasn't able to go to the meeting. I tend to call some of my committee members and see what happened, but I don't know what she could. She did make it clear, apparently, according to Sheila Jackson Lee, that none of their biases influenced any of their actions. And that's the bottom line, and that's what the Inspector General said.
All right.